Bunny Man.
And I'm Crazy Susie.
And we are in the Eyes of Terror. And we are sitting on the terror couch.
Yep.
And tonight's episode is Ghostkeeper, 1981. This movie can be found on YouTube and Amazon Prime. If you have the Amazon Prime account, I would do that one. The YouTube one is sort of set up weird. I think like there's the ending at the beginning, the extended, and then it gets into the... It just is a weird way that they set it up. So, we watched this one on Prime, though. Because that's the way it's supposed to... I got confused with the YouTube setup one.
We're fond of Prime.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, we pay for it. Why not use it?
Yeah.
So, this month has been, again, just a lot going on.
Well, I've had a lot of doctor's appointments. I have an upcoming surgery, so...
And we've had a lot of wet weather, which has caused some issues within our town and with our neighbors. So there's been times when we've wanted to record and we couldn't because either the kids were inside bouncing off the walls or what not. So
it's been an issue with the noise factor, but we're getting back on track and
yep. So
getting everything back on there.
Yeah. And so what are you drinking?
Ice water.
Ooh, ice water.
Refreshing.
It's like vodka, but not so vodka-y.
I like to live, so no vodka, please.
I am drinking 6 Grapes Reserve Porter.
No, it's port.
Port, if you don't know, is fortified wine. It's usually a lot stronger than wine is.
It's a big boy wine.
Yeah, and honestly, if you like strong drinks, port is the way to go. For me, I actually can't drink wine anymore because I've been ruined on port.
Yeah, I don't care for port.
And this one is a very nice port. And it's been, I think we've had it for a couple of years too.
No, you've had it about a year. I got it about a year ago.
So
I'm good at finding ports that you've not had before.
It's very smooth. And it's on the sweeter end of a port.
Which is strange that you like it because you usually don't like sweet ones.
But it's a lot smoother and it's more like I would consider it's a sipping port.
Well, most ports are just for
yeah.
sipping. You don't just sit and chug down a port. They're a bit too strong for that.
But this one is, for like special occasions or after a really good meal, something like that. So.
Yeah. Ghostkeeper is 89 minutes long. It is listed as a drama horror thriller. The director is Jim. I'm not sure how to pronounce the last name.
Makichuk.
Makichuk. The writer is also Jim and Doug MacLeod.
MacLeod, I think.
MacLeod. God.
Canadians and their weird
My
Canadian
pronouncing
names.
of things today is not very good. Okay. Anyway, IMDb scores it a 5.2 out of 10. And the origin of this film is Canada. The cast list is very small. The cast are River Spire is Jenny, Murray Ord is Marty, Sherry McFadden is Chrissy, Georgie Collins is the Ghostkeeper, Les Kimber is the Storykeeper, Bill Grove is Danny.
Storekeeper.
Storekeeper. Sorry. Storykeeper sounded fancier, I guess. John Macmillan is Wendigo. That's all of them. That's it. And the storyline is a group of 3 friends on a snowmobiling trip find themselves stranded at an abandoned lodge, isolated in the mountains.
So, you want to know something funny? I was listening to one of the guys I listened to on YouTube about cars and stuff. And he was saying that he used to be so tall, and then now he had a motorcycle that didn't have shocks or anything on it. And he was saying that they found out, and he shrunk. Okay? And they said that that was a very common occurrence among Eskimos after they got the snowmobiles. Because snowmobiles don't have shocks on them. And what they found out is that through, like, if you don't have shocks on your car or your motorcycle, after a period of time, you will shrink because it will compact your spine.
Because you're carrying...
You're the shock now.
You're the shock absorber.
Yeah. So I thought that was, that was interesting and goes hand in hand with the snowmobile thing. So, yeah. Just a little...
They're not very tall traditionally.
No. So,
they don't really have the
They lost like half an inch or so with, being jarred, I guess, is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
Through the snowmobiles and stuff like that. So, I thought that was interesting. So, if you were an avid snowmobile driver or anything like that, you may shrink a little bit. And this does go within our winter of isolation and Canadian horror films. It was more by accident than anything else. But, I mean, we're spotlighting Canadians. We're spotlighting Canadian horror films.
The estimated budget for this film is 750,000 Canadian dollars.
So it's about a Ford horse.
Which I would think that's quite a bit of money, but...
Well, you got to think Canadian dollars are less than ours. So, I don't know. I'm not doing the exchange rate, but...
I mean, it's not jump change, but when you watch the film, you're like, what did they spend the money on? Rental for this place? I mean...
And that's quite possible.
But it was back in 1981, I mean...
You know what it was? It was a snowmobile rental.
It was probably the gas or the firewood to keep them warm, keep that place heated while they were filming.
Yeah. But, it'd be better if they froze them because it would be more authentic.
You think you're cute, don't you?
So, anyway, if you wanted to know, we have multiple ways of helping out the show because this is a labor of love. We do this because we love these really bad horror movies. The other night you were talking about we watched one guy about food. He's like, I try it so you don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
We're the opposite. We watch these movies and we want you to watch these movies.
Yes, we watch them and we suffer through it, and then we encourage you to do the same.
Yes, every movie you need to watch that we review.
We just recently had a producer and a writer asked us to critique one of his films, and so...
You get to look forward to that next month.
Yeah.
Which leads us to, if you are a producer or a writer and you've worked on a film recently that is a full-length horror film, and it's easily... So there's a few rules and regulations. It has to be full-length. It has to be horror. And if you want us to watch it, it has to either be on YouTube, Amazon Prime, or you have to send us the DVD.
We need to be able to access the film. We have to be able to view it.
But, I mean, we don't mind watching your film and stuff, but we're not going to pay for your film, if that makes sense.
I mean, if you have a website to where it can be purchased, that's fine. But we would need you to send us a copy of it.
And it has nothing to do... We don't make money off of this. It's just...
We've been doing this channel for 3 years, and we've not made a penny off of it. The plain and simple truth of it is, it's just because we take the time to view the movie multiple times before we critique it. Because I don't want to be sitting there and writing notes on a film that I've only watched one time. Because when you're looking down to write notes, you miss things.
Well, there's also that, and I don't mind. We have another guy that we're also doing within that month that sent us a DVD a couple months ago, and I've been every time he sort of tweets out that his is going, hey, check it out. I feel it's appropriate. I will retweet it or mention it. So I don't mind doing that, but we're not being paid by anybody to give these favorable reviews or not, and it's just, that's just one sort of caveat that we just want. It's it's just we want to be able to review it, but we're just asking for that one little thing. So now, if you're a listener and you just want to support us, we do have a Patreon.
It's just something as simple as you don't invite a friend out to dinner or to a party and then ask them to pay. It's just rude.
Unless it's been defined that's
exactly.
You're not asking them to pay for.
You don't ask your friend, "Hey, come to the movie with me," and then ask them to pay
for everybody,
for you and them to go to the show. It's just, it's a common courtesy thing. So that's all.
And we're not asking for like a Blu-ray. We're just asking for like a DVD. So
we just need access to the film. Yeah. That's all.
Okay, so other than that, if you are a listener, we do have a Patreon. We do have a merch store on Redbubble and Teespring. We also have this. We've just signed up for this new program, and if you listen to us, I have it a lot on any podcast catcher. Now, this is a new podcast catcher. And what it does is a very passive way of listening and giving money to the content that you enjoy. So what happens is that you download it. It's called Radio Republic or Radio Public, and you would just listen to whatever podcast you want to listen to, and through your listening, it passively collects money. Now, what that does, it does insert ads. I think it's just a beginning and a mid-roll, or a mid-roll and towards the end, where they will insert an ad in there. Mm-hmm. But you don't actually have to give up any hard-earned money for it. It's a free app. It's on Google Play or iTunes, I think. And it's just a passive way of doing it. I've been listening to some of my favorite podcasts, so they can get some sort of money out of it. And you listen to enough of our episodes on that, it will increase what we get. And really, my goal is just to break even on our hosting. That's all I'm asking is like $20 to break even. If we could get to that point every month, then I'm good. And like I said, that's just a passive way of doing it. You don't actively have to give up your hard-earned money because we all understand how hard it is. Your money goes to what you need. We're not asking any of our fans to support us unless you want to. Now, with that said, we also stream on Sundays, on every other Sunday on YouTube. And you can catch us on there and on Twitch and on streaming and several other platforms. And if you follow us on our social media, we'll usually the day of Sunday or the day before, we'll post what movie we're watching, so you could go out and get it. If you want to watch along with us, just listen to our sort of off commentary, because it's sort of like riff tracks where we're actually watching the movie, but because of copyright issues and stuff, we can't just show the movie. And this is newer stuff. We've done in the past, we did The Nun, We did Heredity, Mandy. Those were our, so you can watch us on YouTube or Twitch or streaming or whatever like that. And each of those have different types of programs. So just keep that in mind. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter. We're on the Horror Amino, and I think that's about it. We do have a Reddit. We also do have a Reddit forum if you want to join that. And all of this is in either in the Eyes of Terror or Eyes of Terror, because sometimes when we try to put in stuff, it wouldn't let us put in so it would just be like Eyes of Terror. So
that's that.
That is that.
And we are doing Ghostkeeper 1981.
1 hour and 28 minutes.
And we viewed this on Prime.
Yes.
This movie begins with a saying in the Indian...
I could do it.
Okay. Okay, Grandpa.
All right. In the Indian legends of North America, there exists a creature called a Wendigo, a ghost who lives on human flesh. Tasty.
See, I typed mine, so he wrote his in cursive, and I don't know what he was drinking at the time, but he can't read his chicken scratch. Mine's typed. I have carpal tunnel, and sometimes I can't write, so I just type mine sometimes, and you can read mine. You can't read his chicken scratch.
I can read mine.
Not that part you couldn't.
I made a little commentary, and it didn't flow with the rest of it. So I was like, oh, okay, that's what I know.
What did I mean then? I don't know.
Yes.
So this movie quality reminds me of an old film strip. It's old and spotty, kind of like a projector screen. The beautiful snow-covered mountaintops are shown here, and eerie music is used.
Okay, so going back to what you were saying, I think that feeling, and again, it's a feeling of that. I think if they would clean it up and make it look nice, it would lose a lot of its effect.
Right. I mean, I enjoyed that effect.
What movie was I watching? It was made in the 80s. Maybe it was like a Jason movie, I think. I think it was like Jason Goes to Hell on Netflix. And I was like watching it, and I'm like, something about this is off. Not like the movie was off or anything, or the audio. It was just like, it didn't feel right. And I realized what it was. It was cleaned up.
It wasn't grainy.
It wasn't grainy. It didn't have that VHS feel. And I feel like we've digitally clarified everything to the point where it's almost perfect. And I'm sort of having a revulsion towards it, of like, I don't want it to be perfect. I want it to be grainy. I want it to be, I sort of miss the old the real cigarette burns, not the digital cigarette burns. The little spot at the corner where that would tell to the splicer to splice the reels together. That little, that's what they're called, cigarette burns. And I sort of miss seeing that in the film, and even like watching old, really bad films.
You realize this is going to take forever.
I know.
Keep stopping.
I just wanted to bring that up. But the scenery is absolutely beautiful in this. And it sort of reminds me of a nature film at the beginning. It was like a B-roll of a nature film.
You know what it reminded me of? Misery.
Of course it reminds you of Misery. That is your ultimate go-to film.
The beginning of Misery.
So...
Well, it's the mountains, snow,
And that, and I like it because it gives you that sense of winter and isolation.
Just calmness.
Yeah. But it also gives you that overall feeling of there is nothing out here. There is no near town. There is no little village or hamlet that you could go to and crap hits the fan,
Yeah.
you are stuck in the middle of almost impassable paths at this point.
So you see two people riding the snow-covered plains on a snowmobile. They're going toward the mountains. They stop at a general store. Marty, he aggravates the shop owner by asking him why he is not in Florida instead of here in the snow.
Yeah, he's trying to be like edgy and egg on this guy, but he's trying to do it in a nice Canadian way. It's weird.
Why are you not enjoying the view of the bikini bodies instead of the snow-covered mountains?
Well, maybe because 1980 bikinis were weird.
The shop owner says he likes the snow, and they watch Night of the Living Dead every summer. The mountains there are worse things than getting lost, he says. One of their friends, sorry I missed this part, one of their friends pull up in her snowmobile. The other two come out of the shop.
And this seemed like it was just an unsundry shop. It was just like they had everything. They had coats,
Right, it
and
was
blankets.
like what do you call it? A general store.
Yeah.
And the shop owner warns them to not go into the mountains. You know, he says there are worse things around here in those mountains than what you've seen on Night of the Living Dead.
Or on TV or whatever. But,
So he warns them to not go exploring.
But, I mean, he also said there's a storm coming in, too. So, it's... Can you imagine being stuck in a snowstorm and a blizzard in the mountains? I mean, people die that way.
So the three leave. And they go off and explore together. And of course, they go into the mountains just as they were advised not to.
Because they're edgy and they're Canadians and they only live once.
One girl is opposed to going down a trail that has a private property sign posted. The other says, "Why not? You never want to try anything."
Well, you know, it's different up there than it is down here. You know what happens when you go on somebody's property with a no trespassing sign is?
You get a shotgun to your face.
Yeah, you may not be walking off that property.
So they decide to give it a go. What could happen, right? Okay.
Some guy with a shotgun?
Yep. Now both women are ready to turn around as there is no sign that anyone has been there. Chrissy has a small accident. She only has a few scratches, but her snowmobile will not start. And the three of them will not fit on one snowmobile. So they decide to go on foot.
So didn't she run into a bank or something, like a snow bank or something like that?
She ran into a snowdrift and her snowmobile got overheated or something like that. I don't know. It just wouldn't start back.
Yeah.
They come upon a building. They find a lodge and make their way inside. It looks unused for some time. Dust covers every surface. Marty jumps out and scares Chrissy, and they pretend to be a guest and an innkeeper. He checks the books and sees that no one has checked in for nearly 5 years. Jenny finds it strange because the lodge is warm. Marty says, well, someone must be here.
Well, overall, I mean, it's not a dilapidated place. It looked like it just fell out of, favor, is the best way to put it. It just either, they put I mean, it's called Deer Lodge. And it's probably a hunting lodge at one point, or, a getaway. And It could have been like a highway came in and bypassed it, or just because it's inaccessible. It became inaccessible. I mean, they had to go with the snowplows. And we apologize because obviously we live in an auto shop too now. So it could be just because it was inaccessible. That's why it grew out of favor. I don't know.
Marty says, well, someone must be here. We might as well get comfortable. It will be a while before we can get the snowmobile up and running. Chrissy is none too happy at this idea that they may not be alone and they are stranded there.
Well, it's not just that they're working on the snowmobile or anything, but the storm the old man said is coming in is starting to come in. So the snow started falling a little bit quicker, and it started piling up, and so they had to find shelter.
Marty has a walkabout the lodge to see what he can figure out about the place, and Jenny checks to see what rooms may be open. A cat jumps out at her. She finds...
Sheep jump scare.
Yeah. She finds an old linen closet with a rifle inside. She doesn't take the rifle, which I find to be the dumbest thing ever, because if I was in a strange place, in the middle of nowhere, and I found a weapon, I would be taking it.
Well, I'll be also checking it to make sure it worked.
I would be taking it.
Yeah, and then you'd be greasing it up and making sure it worked. Make sure you had ammo for it. If not, it's a club now.
I'd be taking it. I wouldn't be leaving it in the closet. She shuts the door and leaves.
Especially with, that there's somebody there. Because
Right.
the furnace is working.
Marty finds the kitchen. That is pretty barren, save for a can of fruit. Chrissy plays on the piano. Marty looks out the window to see the snowstorm coming. He thinks to himself that he best tell the girls that they will have to stay here for the night. Jenny makes her way upstairs. She notices a door that keeps closing that has a hanger on the doorknob. She takes the hanger off and enters the room. She shuts the window, but fails to notice the dark-eyed person hiding in the corner.
Well, I mean, all that just seemed like it was perfect, to spark the curiosity. I mean, if you're alone in a lodge and you see a door with a hanger on and that's opening and closing, that's the last place I would go into. Because it's like, somebody's going to be behind the door trying to stab me or something. Or I would be checking every corner of that room before just walking over to, making a beeline to the window.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, I look at it this way. It's not my heating bill that I have to worry about. It's the lodge's.
Yeah. I wouldn't be randomly walking around that place without a daggum weapon in my hand anyway, so...
But, I mean, out of all...
These people are freaking stupid.
They're Canadians. Sorry.
I don't think it has anything
No,
to do with
I
where
think-
they're from. I think they're just city folk.
But, yeah, I think that's a lot of it. And during this entire time, when Chrissy's on the piano, she finds out how sad she really is. She's actually quite pathetic as a person. She's just like, oh, if I would ever find a man, blah, blah, blah. And then you're just like, stop. You know what I'm trying to say? But go ahead. There's just one thing that really sort of, I just find that sort of foreshadows what's about to happen with her being lonely.
Everyone is downstairs by the fireplace singing. Jenny seems to be in her own little world. She tells Marty she wonders if anyone back at the lodge is looking for them.
Yeah, because I guess this is New Year's, and they are at some like company get together or something, or a group of people that they know are at another lodge.
Yeah. Chrissy says she doesn't bother. This is the most quiet New Year's she has had in ages, and everyone at the lodge is probably too drunk to notice anything. Marty tells her not to worry. We will be safe here. Jenny says she doesn't think... What the heck?
That they are not alone. She has a suspicion that they're not alone.
My computer lost my place.
But, I mean, basically she just said, I have a feeling we're not alone in this place. You know.
Jenny says she doesn't think they are alone. When she was in the bedroom upstairs, she felt like someone there in the room with her. Someone or something else. Chrissy says she had a good imagination. Chrissy asks Marty if he has ever told anyone a secret.
I think we should go into sort of like the personality of like Jenny and Chrissy and the guy's name. So Jenny is sort of, I want to say, reserved. She's just sort of like, she really doesn't speak her mind. Where Chrissy is more, I'm just going to tell you everything.
Yeah, she shares too much.
Yeah, she's, and then
Marty
is, I think he's just thirsty. He's just a thirsty mofo. I think he's one of those guys.
If you want to give it, he'll take it.
Yep.
Chrissy asked Marty if he has ever told anyone a secret that he has never told anyone. She tells them a story about when she was in 10th grade.
Basically, she says that she always wanted to be a hooker and gives a detailed explanation about a time that she did so with a substitute teacher she seduced. And I don't have any understanding what this has to do with any of the storyline or anything like that. It's just other than she's trying to seduce Marty. That's all. She doesn't have to really seduce Marty, let's be honest here. You know, she's just trying to be like, I'm down for anything.
There was this time
that I put my head behind my legs behind my head. She could have just said that and he would have been like, okay.
Do it.
Do it, yeah.
They finish the wine and Marty looks for more. The girls hear...
They found, they find like little things here and there to get them sort of at ease. They find, obviously, wood for the fireplace because they're in front of a fireplace in the main hall. They find a bottle of wine just sort of chilling. And then, what else? Didn't they find some food? They
found a can of fruit. That's all they found for food in the cupboard. That's it.
Marty heads down to starts trying to look for some more of that wine because they only had one bottle and they were somewhat feeling it, but not really feeling it. So they wanted to get white girl drunk, I think.
Well, then if that's the case, they would already be there.
No, with one bottle of wine? It takes a lot of wine to get yourself stuck into a sink.
What, throwing up in a sink?
No, sitting in a sink.
Using a sink for a lavatory?
No, just...
I'm trying to understand
That's
what
a moon
you're
chair.
saying about a sink.
It was a meme a few years ago. Your head is still trying to figure that out. That wheel's...
I'm trying to figure out what you're talking about a sink.
There was a meme of a chick in a sink just chilling in it. And it said white girl drunk.
I'd have to go more than white girl drunk to be sitting in the sink. Took a lot of effort for me to get in the sink.
But it's beside the point of they were trying to get white girl drunk.
I've been pretty drunk before. I ain't never sit in the sink. I've climbed a mountain, but I've never sat in the sink. Anyway, so they heard Marty scream and they come running. They find the caretaker and she tells them that they cannot stay there. She tells Jenny she's a tough one. Marty asks the lady many questions, but she's not one for answers or people. She says she doesn't like the city. The mountains is made for living. She says she isn't alone. Her boy and the mountains are here. She is never alone. He never goes very far. He is around somewhere.
I wonder if the mountains talk to her.
The hotel closed due to lack of business. There is no reason to lock the rooms, due to no one to keep out. The plumbing is out in the rooms, but a bathroom down the hall. Some hot water, but not a lot. Chrissy shows Chrissy her own room. First she tells them they can't stay, and then the blizzard comes and she realizes that either she pushes them out in a blizzard or they have to stay there, so
yeah,
she lets them stay. So she tells them, the plumbing doesn't work, there's this one bathroom you can use, but there's limited water, and then she shows them to their rooms.
Well, but I mean, it wouldn't be that hard to... They obviously have a fire going, so it wouldn't be that hard. They really wanted to boil some water.
Yeah. Well, she gives Chrissy her own room and lets Jenny and Marty share a room. Jenny asked him if he wanted to sleep with Chrissy, and he says that not to worry about it. He pays the bills. He is allowed to do as he wishes. Well, Marty would have got a swift kick in the pants if he said that crap to me. She can do as she wants as long as she knows who pays the bills. And he gets to leave the room and he goes to leave the room to wash up.
Yeah, wash his balls.
And Jenny says, "Can't you just say where you are going?" He calls her crazy, and she says, "Don't you call me that." He says, "You are scared of flipping out, just like your old lady." Marty leaves the room and is met by Chrissy, who says she was going to take a bath. Chrissy draws a bath and hangs up her clothes, pins up her hair, and climbs in the tub.
Well, it was a nice picture of a bath she did draw.
Mm-hmm.
Every time when somebody says go draw me a bath, I'm like, but I don't want to draw you a bath.
Mm-hmm. You're a smart aleck.
Yep.
With candles lit in a dark room, a strange man comes in and drowns her sorrows. Jenny gets up and goes to the bathroom looking for Chrissy. The old lady keeps telling Jenny she is tough. She says she is getting too old for the job, and Jenny is trying to get her to explain herself when Marty comes around the corner asking if they have seen Chrissy. He searches for her with lantern in hand, starting to feel sorry for himself because he has no woman for company. Chrissy is taken into a barn made of ice cubes with a wooden door.
Yeah, I don't understand the wooden door thing.
Number 1, the strange man slit her throat and laid her on the floor inside the ice building. He shuts the door, and you see another set of hands drag her away. Jenny and Marty go to bed, but Marty has to sleep above the covers. Jenny apologizes because she does not want to go to bed angry. She is afraid of being crazy like her mother. She says, even when I'm mad, you don't have to call me names. He asks if she wants this relationship. She says, I don't know. It's too hard to think here. You see a pale light in a building outside, and hear an axe chopping. Jenny awakes because she thinks she hears her name being whispered.
Jenny.
She gets up, wraps in a blanket, and goes down the hall. She hears the woman talking to someone. The old lady thinks someone may have been listening in on their conversation, so she stops and investigates. But Jenny had raced back to bed. Marty gets up and tries to get the snowmobile running. Jenny observes his efforts from the window, then gets dressed and goes downstairs to help. He lifts the hood and notices a hose has been pulled loose. Marty asks the innkeeper where Chrissy was and what happened to her snowmobile, and did she know who had messed with it's been tampered with. She said Chrissy left. She did not know when she left or where, and she did not mess with the snowmobile. She doesn't know anything about them. Jenny got aggravated and the old lady and grabbed her by the arm and asked her again, where was Chrissy? She tells her she had better save her strength for when she really needs it. Marty goes to the barn and looks for any tools or supplies he can use to fix the snowmobile so they can leave. Jenny drinks the tea the old lady offers her and starts feeling dizzy.
So there's a few things I've learned in this couple of scenes here. One of them is don't take tea from suspicious old lady you find in a lodge.
Nope.
Soup does sound good while in the middle of a winter film, because you were talking about soup. And if you're going to go out in the middle of nowhere, you might want to learn something about like little maintenance on your machine that you're using. Either it be a snowmobile or whatnot, because Marty is like trying to figure all this stuff out, and there's obviously like parts within the snowmobile. There's like an area for like tools and stuff in the snowmobile engine or whatever, and you're just like, I don't even know what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, well, maybe you should have got a little knowledge or a manual. Where's the manual to the thing at? I mean, that might have helped. So, I mean, there's a couple of, like, life lessons in here.
Yeah.
But the big one is, don't drink mysterious tea from old ladies you've just met in a lodge who's saying, I'm getting too old for this crap. 5 more days to retirement.
So Jenny drinks the tea and she's starting to feel dizzy. Marty sees the bloody axe. Oh no.
Dun dun.
And the deer carcass hanging. Jenny wakes in a strange place. She sees a book called Indian Legends of Canada. The flesh-eating giants could be kept by certain people, mostly females, who had an ancient power handed from them from one to another. She looks at a paper that titled Mutated Bones Found. She decided she has to get out of here. She finds the ice house and hears her name whispered.
So, how do you think... Okay, so it said handed from one to another. So, at the end of it, I don't know, one old lady, she's like, I'm just done with all this power. Here you go. I'm handing you my power. How would that work? I mean, like... Is it a physical, like, handoff? Like... I'm gonna wrap it with a nice little bow on top of it and just, boop. Here's some power to have. And the other question is do you think that she left the book out, or was she just like, I've read this book 100 times, but nighty night, like she left out the book on purpose, so she sort of knew what was going on.
She's like, I'll leave this old newspaper here. You'll figure it out.
Yeah, because it was also like a series of like newspapers of...
Hint, hint.
Yeah, there's like a series of like newspapers saying, mysterious deaths and mutilated bodies and found within the thing and the area, and it was just... Wink, 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 wink.
Yeah. She hears her name whispered. There's a lock on the door, but for some reason, it's a good idea to open it. The strange...
Also, another life lesson. Don't open up stuff that have locks on it if you don't know what's inside of it. There you go.
Well, how would you know if it's got a lock? The strange man comes around the corner with a chainsaw.
Hey,
Jenny runs. She runs and goes into the attic. Onto the breezeway of the roof. Number 2. He follows her and she pushes the door against him, knocks him off the breezeway and onto the fence post. He's a shish kebab.
Yep.
She yells for Marty, who witnesses this happen, and tells him, we have to get out of here. She says, there is a monster in there. It has called to me.
Hey, Jenny,
It
how you
calls to me. We have to get out of here.
doing? He's not a nice monster. You want to know why? Because he calls her collect.
Such a high phone bill. I pushed him off. It's her son. Marty says you will never get away with it. You killed him. You killed that guy, she says. That's over. Forget that. And then the snowmobile burst into flames. A voice whispers, soon, Jenny, soon you will understand.
Would you please pay $1.50 to continue this call?
Marty smears grease on his face and tells her it's okay. She is gone. If my old man could see me now, son of a lawyer, out of control my whole life. I will never once seen him shout. Just once I would like to see him get out of control. You kill a man, Jen. I have to go get help. You stay here. All of those years of college, those big words, I can't even fix a machine. Chrissy has been probably gone back to the lodge, Please listen, Jenny. Funny thing is, I could never defend a man for less than $75,000, but I don't know how to get out of here. She says, I know how. There is a shotgun in the closet. Marty starts walking off, and she follows behind. He pushes her down in the snow and refuses to listen to her. He doesn't have his hat or his gloves. They are in his hand. The snow gets so high he has to crawl, but still he goes. Someone traveling enters the old lodge. Number 3.
Yeah, he killed number 3. You keep saying number 3.
Yeah.
Instead of kill number 3.
The old lady stabs him as he goes to enter the main lobby area, looking for someone. Jenny gives up on Marty and goes back inside. The old lady stands over her son's body saying, "My baby." Jenny runs to the closet to get the gun and finds bullets. She puts extra bullets in her pockets. She finds the old lady and she says, "My little girlie, here you are." She says, "Don't step any further, it's loaded." "It never worked. Besides, you wouldn't shoot me. Only a crazy person would do that, and you are not crazy." Jenny says, "How do you know that?" Basically, the lady implies that she is Jenny's mother, and she does not need the gun. The crazy old lady screams, "I won't hurt you," while holding a knife.
Jenny, I'm your mother.
Number 4.
Kill number 4.
And of course, Jenny shoots, and the old lady hits the ground. Jenny walks away. She hears her name being called again. So she goes back to the ice room. She unlocks the door and opens it. A man-like creature is inside, and a voice says to him, "It's all right, Jenny. We'll look after you now." Jenny goes out and finds a frozen Marty, number 5, and a caretaker spirit has taken over Jenny. It says to Marty he should have listened to Jenny. She has to go now, but don't worry, she will be back for you. All of this seems to be said not out loud because Jenny's mouth never moves. Jenny moves about the house, making sure it's safe and secure. She touches and admires the artwork, then sits down by the fire with a cup of tea. The voice of the old lady says it will be fine. She will look after her. It will be like it always was. You will see, Jenny. You will see.
And then she realizes it's the drug cup again. Yeah!
Too much arsenic, damn it.
Okay, so you had a theory, and I don't know if you remember what your theory was.
I wrote it down.
Okay, so let's go with your theory first.
It seems to me that Jenny finally snapped. She was told that she was crazy one too many times, then read a story about a folklore that made it come true in her mind. And if people had to die to make this story work, then oh well. Unfortunately, mental illness does run in her family, and some just can't admit to having problems or needing help.
You and me have always talked about it, that do we have a fear of snapping? You know, like, and I get understand if you have a parent that is mentally ill, or you or yourself have some mental illness, that you are afraid that it might spiral out of control. And so I can understand that fear wholeheartedly, because, it's like, so, and maybe in this whole thing between the whole Chrissy thing, the Chrissy and Marty thing, obviously, I think she's always had a suspicion of him cheating on her, but he's never come out and said it. And now...
Well, it's not something that they've talked about.
Mm-hmm. But now it's blatant that he is. And then... So there's that issue. So, and it was just, there's the isolationism. And if you've never been by yourself in an extended period of time with a small group of people, after a while, you start going nuts.
Yeah.
And then, so whatever you're afraid of, to some extent, does creep up onto it. And then here you have a guy who, let's be honest, is pretty much useless in a survival scenario, where he admits it. He's a lawyer. He's It's all he is. He's just a city boy who doesn't know anything outside of what he knows. And oh yeah, and then there was we did miss that the innkeeper did try to come up to the guy that they met, the shopkeeper did try to come up and help him, but he got killed too. That wasn't mentioned in our notes, but
I don't remember that.
yeah, it was like a small little scene where he come in and he got shot.
Right.
And he got dragged down. So
no, I don't think it was him. I think it was somebody else.
No. It was the shopkeeper.
Was it him or I think it was somebody else that had traveled?
It was the shopkeeper because he knew where they're. He was the only one that knew where they were going.
I think it was somebody else.
Well, either I thought it was a shopkeeper. It could have been somebody else. I like to think it was a shopkeeper, just to sort of.
If it was a shopkeeper,
circular.
He would have knew who would have been there. It was somebody that acted like they didn't know who to expect. That was there.
But I mean, the thing is there's also he may not have known.
And they came in, and the caretaker just killed him straight away.
Yeah.
She just took him out.
Yeah. My theory is that it actually happened. But the Wendigo is make believe. Because it doesn't appear to after the story, or till like after the actual story is read.
Mm-hmm.
And really what set her off again is the Marty and Chrissy love triangle and the former residents that live there. So it could have been just, the caretakers are just some people who are squatting and the deer in because no one's there anymore. So who's going to know that they live there? And they've been there since, like, it said the winter of 55 or whatever.
They could have killed them. They could have killed the owners.
They could have. But, I mean... But they could have been squatting since, 5 years. Or they could have been the last residents there that they just never left. And we don't know if they're an actually mother and son, or it was just sort of one of those adopted type things because they're just squatters or what. But I don't think the Wendigo itself is actually real in this. Because, number one, it doesn't go with any of the descriptions that Native Americans have for a Wendigo. And I just felt like the Wendigo, anyway, through the movie, was just sort of oh yeah, we need to have a monster. Yeah, it was an afterthought type thing. But the monster was never actively a part of the storyline.
So what are your qualms about this film?
It's a slow burn. A lot of it. I mean, I give it let me give my rating, and then I'll go through it. So, 3.5 out of 5. I think it's a decent film. I think there's, for what it is a decent film. And it does. There's a few... Let me go with the first few things that they did right. I like that it really gave that concept of isolation, and not everything is prevalent there. The thing is there's no food to be found. There's no wine to be found, really, easily. There is... Now you've figured out that there is... How they're eating is a deer... Like, through hunting. Because of the deer carcass and stuff like that.
Okay, and what you just said, it makes sense that that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're in isolation. There isn't much around, so it makes sense that they're hunting and...
But there's other movies that I've watched that are very similar to this type of movie where there's canned food from whenever it was, an active place. Like, food was prevalent still, so they were getting supplies from somewhere. This one, what I'm trying to say, gives an actual feeling of isolation. Mm-hmm. And that, no one is coming. There is no drop shipments. There is no ordering from 1981 Amazon to get food stuff. And then the other thing that I really liked was the hypothermia. scene. Because if you don't know, hypothermia is when you freeze to death. But there's various stages of hypothermia. Mm-hmm. And one of them is you start getting towards the end of your hypothermic state, you start getting really, really hot. And people will start stripping their clothes off. And Marty stripped his clothes off, and you can see bits and pieces of his coat. And it's because it's the opposite reaction. They don't feel like they're freezing; they're just burning up. So by doing that, then they freeze. I mean, obviously, like, it's
like almost solid. Like they actually freeze beyond death. Like you can barely move them. They're so frozen.
Yeah, and so that's what I liked, and that to me that's a far more horrific, ending for somebody than, let's say, a monster killing you. I would rather have a monster drag me off somewhere than die of hypothermia. Mm. Okay, so there was that, and so you're waiting to Jenny to snap at some point. So here are some of my problems. It seems like in a lot of these type of movies, character development is just really low. For a long time, I didn't even really care about the names of these people. A lot of times I'll write girl 1, or man 1, girl 2, or whatever, leave blanks. And this one I felt the same way. Like, I couldn't remember the guy's name, Marty. Until I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, I had to look it up. I want to know more about the old lady, to be honest. Like, there's just more of that. The lodge. And the Wendigo. If it existed. Like, how did they capture the Wendigo? Things. I wish there was a prequel to it, I guess. The igloo thing really confused me. And then how do you keep the hunger of because from what I understand through folklore of Wendigos, the Wendigo eats a lot. And is also a mimic. How do you sustain a Wendigo's hunger without attacking you? Because let's be honest, that igloo is not going to hold any monster back if it's hungry enough. So how are they keeping sustained? Because I can't imagine there's a lot of people going up to that lodge. Because I think the shopkeeper would be like, you don't want to go down that road type thing. Like he was more concerned of there's a storm coming in, turn around now, than he was there's a lodge up there, stay away from it, a lot of people are disappearing.
Well, it's a hotel, not a lodge.
No, it's called Deer Lodge. That's the name of the place.
Well, she referred to it as a hotel.
Well, I'm just going by what the name of it was. But the hotel, lodge, to me is the same thing. I mean, a lodge just gives a feeling of like you're in the woods type thing, in my opinion, than it is.
Is that all your qualms?
That it was not. And half of the film felt like it was a documentary film. Like it was a lot of B-roll for a documentary film. But a lot of it was that they brought in a Wendigo without bringing a Wendigo in faithfully. That just sort of bothered me a little bit. Oh, and a little weird thing. So there's a small tie-in to both of this movie and the film Curtain. Zaza composed both films. The music to both films for this movie and Curtains. Okay, go ahead.
Give it a 2 out of 5.
Alright.
It builds up just to let you down, and it's very predictable. The storyline is clunky. The mixture of reality and fantasy does not blend well. The creature Man-Eater is played up, then it shows to be looked like a rotting man.
See, I didn't even really I don't feel like you got a good look of the person.
How the creature is stored in an ice room with a wooden door seems very unrealistic. The creature was supposed to be a giant, but was kept in a basement, which is an ice room. inside another room. When it finally did show him, he really just looked like maybe an average sized guy hunched over so he could look kinda tall, but forced into a small space.
So sort of like me being forced into a small space.
I don't think he was even your height.
If you don't know, I'm 6'4", so...
But that image was not shown well. This place has been around for many years. Do people not go looking for the guests that check in and go missing?
Again, it's just if they know that they were going. I mean, they were lucky enough that a storm... It could be... I mean, the thing is I don't know how far is, like, this lodge is into the wilderness. Like, it doesn't give you any sort of concept of why people stopped coming to it. You know, let's look at, like, Norman Bates Hotel.
Well, reality, in some aspects, this movie gets, like you said, with the hypothermia thing and stuff like that. And that's what irritates me about some movies like this. If you're going to ground part of the movie in reality, then you need to ground all of the movie in reality. Every bit of it. If you're going to ground part of it in it, then all of the movie needs to be realistic. I get that Wendigo, the creature, is not a real thing. I get that. I'm not saying it needs to be a real thing.
Well,
but
I mean, it's cryptic.
It's a folklore. I get that. So, if you're going to base your film on a folklore creature, then you need to do research on it, and you need to try to make it as realistic to that folklore as possible. You need to do it correctly. You don't need to get an average height person, put them in a monkey suit, which that's not even what they did. They did a more poor job than that, in my opinion.
They put him in like a fursuit.
It
like
looked
a fur
like
coat.
They made him up, like looking like a zombie, like his flesh was melting off, and put him in a basement that was blocked in ice blocks and made him hunch over to where it made him look taller, when really it just made him look like he was a hunched over old person. It didn't make him look taller. They could have made him stand on stilts. I mean, there's ways around it.
Well, it doesn't even have to be that. It's just, but like you said, it's a basement. And no matter how, like, if you're over, well, my dad was 5'9".
It doesn't matter if you're average height or over average height.
I mean,
if
basements
you're
are
in
uncomfortable.
A basement, it's going to make it look like the space is less anyway.
Yeah.
Because it is. It's a basement. You know? It's not like basements have vaulted ceilings. Basements, by nature, are smaller spaces anyway.
Yeah.
No. And then they have the ice surrounding everything, so that takes up space too. And it's going to distort how light is transferred.
Yeah, and there's that weird sort of like blue light that was shining through the igloo.
So that distorts things. But some concepts that they did were good, and others didn't help.
And, you know, like the whole sort of like telepathy thing was weird. Like I said,
I don't think that really added or took away anything from it.
But the thing is, it sort of did if you think about it. Because she just was like, yeah, I'm just going to take the role now as the keeper. But the thing is like, it's handed to you. I wish there was some sort of like physical, like she shot her, and then that's how the power has to be transferred. You have to take the life of the keeper. Of the previous.
Well, she took the life, and then now she had that deeper connection with the Wendigo.
That's what I'm saying. But I mean, it acted like that person actively had to. You know, if you look at the story, the person had to actively give over the power, compared to the other person sort of had to take the power.
So she shot the lady, and then it was like they shared thoughts.
Yeah.
And then she had the desire to care for the Wendigo. She had that desire to care for the hotel and make sure everything was where it needed to be.
You know what I think would have been sort of like...
You could tell because when she walked through the hotel, like everything had its place, and she touched all the objects and like they were hers, and you know
it would be sort of
like she'd been looking at him for years.
You know, it would also be a really more like another interesting way of taking it when the other voice or whatever is that it would be like other voices. You know, like there would be like a lineage of voices there. No, just to give that sort of that feeling of this has been going on for a long, like the Wendigo is a constant.
But the thing is, the spirit of the caretaker and the spirit of the Wendigo never changes. Why would they have different voices?
No, I'm just saying different voices of the caretakers. Just to give it the feeling of...
Just because the caretaker physically changes, the spirit of them doesn't change. You see what I'm saying?
I get what I'm saying, but I was just saying from a different perspective.
If I could take a picture right now for y'all to see where this dog is sitting at.
Just by your mommy.
I got a 100-pound dog on my back.
I was just saying it would just give that eternal feeling. Like this goes on forever. This has gone on forever. This will continue to go on forever.
That, but the spirit of the caretaker wouldn't change. Therefore, the voice wouldn't change. Even though the physical person changes. I understand what you're trying to portray, but it wouldn't change. Does my notebook smell good? Look, got your nose smushed in it.
I get what you're saying. I'm just trying to be like, I think it would have been, just give it that, this will keep continuing. It's never going to end. Type thing. That's what I was trying to get at.
This is the hotel that never ends.
But, yeah, it's just, it has a lot of little issues, but from what I understand, the filming wasn't... Yeah, we need to go into the background. I don't think the filming there's a lot of issues with it.
So, there is some...
According to director Jim, whatever the last name is, the film's money started to run out when the film
Makichuk.
was only half shot. So rather than cancel the production altogether, he decided to abandon the remaining script and make things up as he went along, hoping to at least retain the film's creepy atmosphere. He said this explains the released film's rather uneven and incoherent second half and sparse use of the plot's monster. Mm-hmm. So that does make sense why the monster really doesn't seem to do much through the film and why it's uneven. Because the beginning part is actually decent. It's just towards the end that it starts going off the rails a little bit. And then composer Paul Zaza reuses some of his score for this film from another 80s horror film, Prom Night, 1981. So even Zaza could not really care. There are alternate versions. An alternate introduction was filmed 2 years after the movie's completion by its distributors. This scene shows a young man running through the woods away from the hotel, who is then stabbed with a wooden stake against a tree. This alternative introduction appeared on some home video releases in Europe and Canada. The alternate introduction is not featured on the 1986 US VHS release of Ghostkeeper from New World Video. And the filming location is Deer Lodge, 109 Lake House Drive, Lake House, Alberta, Canada. So, I really want to know what they spent a lot of their money on. if it was running out of money that early in the game.
Well, this was in 1981. So I don't know. I imagine just renting the lodge was expensive.
Yeah.
It was a very large lodge, and they would have to rent out the entire space for the movie.
But you think winter would also be an off season?
Not for that area, it wouldn't be.
I don't know anything about Alberta.
I don't know if they have an off season or not. Anyway,
it is worth a watch, though. I mean, it is atmospherical.
It does have some things about it that other films don't. So, and for the time, it's pretty interesting.
And I think it is interesting because it is a Canadian horror film. You just don't see a lot of Canadian horror. That is true. I feel like this was a truly Canadian horror film, and it's not like trying to be a U.S. horror film in Canada.
No, and it's an older one, so it kind of, if you're kind of old like us, it steps back into the 80s kind of situation.
And it's nice that it's not digitized so much that it's just perfect. So.
Well, that's all of that. So, thank you guys for listening, and we'll scare you later.
Bye.